Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another session of our Village Vitality series. I'm so glad that you could join me this morning. My name is Aline, and today we will be focusing on paying attention. Now, today's class was actually inspired by something that happened to me on my way to work this morning. And just to make a long story short, I uh, drove up just at the entrance to Carolina Village, to Carolina Village Road, to an accident that had just happened. Clearly, both cars were totaled. There was a lot of damage. Both individuals that were driving were out of their vehicles, but it looked like it had happened recently. So I pulled into the Krispy Kreme parking lot and walked out to see if I could help. I wasn't sure if maybe a resident was involved, but they're not. And so first I went to the older gentleman that was standing outside of his car, and I ensured he was okay. And he just, I think, felt a lot of guilt and told me I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at a sign, billboard or something like that for a Waffle House and thinking about how maybe I'm going to go get some breakfast. And I hit her. And I went over to the woman, and she was clearly very upset, but physically okay. And she told me, he came out of nowhere. I'm just worried about my baby. I'm pregnant. And I just had this feeling that if that man knew, he would feel so much more guilt for something that was so preventable. I think a lot of our car accidents are very preventable if we just pay attention. So it wasn't even a phone that was distracting him. It was basically just taking your eyes off of what you should be focusing on. And so I just want all of y'all to think about that, especially when your actions affect other people. And unless you live in a vacuum tube, which it might feel like right now at Carolina Village, you affect other people. Everything you do, everything you say, everything you don't do, everything you don't say, it all affects others and, of course, yourself. So I promised that would be short, and it was a little more long-winded than I wanted. But today's class, I'm going to introduce a new breathing technique that really helps to fine-tune your focus, bring you into a meditative state. And then we'll be doing a lot of body work movements where we're going to be really paying attention, one side versus the other, and just trying to observe as much as we can. So you've probably noticed I've got no shoes on today. I really encourage you to take the shoes and socks off if you have them on. We're going to be doing some toe work and ankle work that would be helpful if you're not wearing shoes. You can always put them back on for the end of class, where we'll come to standing and do some balance and standing work if you feel that you need the shoes for that. Now, also, while you get ready, we're going to be doing a breathing technique where we're alternating breath through nostrils. So if you're feeling a little congested, grab a tissue real quick, blow your nose gently. We don't want to do too much force, and just try to clear as much as you can. So shoes off, tissue, clearing it out. We will be doing some hip circles today in the chair, so if you want to grab that hand towel as well. I forgot mine today, but I'll remind you when and how to use that if you want to grab it. So go ahead and have a seat in your trusty chair. It's okay if you are still working on getting the shoes off, still working on clearing the nostrils, grabbing your towel. Just listen to what I'll explain with the breathing technique for our centering today. So it's called Nadi Shodhana, which can translate to alternate nostril breathing. And we'll be using our right hand to manipulate the airflow from one side to the other. Now, this is a very interesting technique for calming. Of course, it's wonderful for the lungs. Basically, every breathing technique that we do in this class is excellent for lung health. But it also balances right and left hemispheres of the brain in terms of brain activity, which is kind of neat. And as I mentioned before, it really brings a very powerful, introspective, meditative feel after performing it. So for this technique, we'll be using, like I said, the right hand. So let's before we get started, just release the wrists and the hands a little bit. So you can be sitting comfortably here. You can be sitting at the edge of your seat. You can be standing, and just a couple wrist rolls in each direction. I'm just going to really try to manipulate my fingers as I'm rolling. There's no right or wrong here, our set pattern. And let's still the wrists a little bit and just focus on the fingers, because we will be holding the fingers of the right hand for a little while with that breathing technique. So I'm just kind of releasing one finger at a time and then bringing them back in. I might actually want to do a little stretch of the fingers. And of course, this stretches my wrist as well. And then maybe the other way. So I'm taking my fingers and just kind of trying to keep them straight more or less. So I'm stretching kind of across the tops of the knuckles and then the top of my wrist. And let's do that other hand. So straight fingers, getting a stretch in the palm and the wrist. And the other way. Trying to keep the fingers from curling if I can. So I'm kind of pressing above the knuckles. And any last movements that feel good. All right, so now we're ready. So my left hand's gonna stay relaxed on my leg. I'm coming to the edge of that seat in my seated Tadasana pose, centering the joints in the body, stacking and aligning everything for maximum muscular efficiency, posture, energy flow. With that right hand, oh, and I almost forgot, of course, you can scoot all the way back to your chair as well for this. So right hand, I'm going to ball it up into a fist. I'm going to release the thumb and the pinky and ring fingers. Now, if I have trouble releasing that ring finger, you can absolutely perform this with just the thumb and the pinky, okay? So I'm going to bring this to face me. Now, I'm just going to demonstrate for you so that then when we actually go through it together, you can do so maybe with your eyes closed, but you can totally open if you need to. So I'm basically holding my hand right in front of my mouth pretty much the entire time. I'm going to close off airflow high up on the nostrils, so not all the way down here on the bottom, a little higher up. I'll inhale through my right nostril, close both off, exhale through my left nostril, and then inhale through the left, close both off, exhale through the right. And I'll just keep going back and forth, alternating nostrils. Now, if you are using supplemental oxygen, you can still perform this, but just don't squeeze too hard. And you will still be getting oxygen through both nostrils. Or if you don't use the supplemental 24/7 and you want to take it off to try this breathing technique, you can. Just do what you're comfortable with and what feels right for you. If your hand starts to cramp or your arm gets tired and you got to release that hand, then just mentally focus as I cue you through which nostril you're breathing through. So imagine you're doing it. Maybe you're not actually doing it with the hand. All right. So go ahead when you're ready, maybe taking a couple shoulder rolls, just finding that nice open posture, eyes closed for right now, hands relaxed. Just starting to observe, especially because you're barefoot. You're feeling the contact points of your feet into the ground, the contact points of your hips into the chair. Pressing down into the chair to help lift up through the top of the head. Notice the space of the heart. See if you can shine that heart forward any amount more. Perhaps drawing the shoulder blades a little closer together behind you. We're still trying to stay relaxed and efficient here. There is muscle effort, of course, but we're not really pushing engagement here. And begin to bring your focus to the nostrils, noticing airflow. Perhaps you can fine-tune your focus enough to observe if one nostril is drawing in more air than the other. At any given time, we do have a dominant nostril, and it changes throughout the day. If you're ever curious about that, you can take a mirror, a hand mirror, and bring it up to right under your nose. And take a deep inhale and a deep exhale, and then quickly look at that mirror, and you can see which nostril is dominant by how much fog you have on the mirror. Go ahead and take that right hand and lift it up. Make your fist. Release the thumb. And release the pinky and ring finger, or just the pinky finger. Bringing that hand directly in front of the face. After an exhale, bring the pinky and ring finger to close off the left nostril. Inhale through the right. Close off both nostrils. Exhale through the left. Keep that left nostril open. Inhale through the left. Close both off. Exhale right. Inhale right. Close off both. Exhale left. Inhale left. Close off both. Exhale right. So we're exhaling and then inhaling through the same nostril. Closing both off, and then again exhaling and inhaling through the same nostril. So if you feel comfortable to move on without my counting and cues, then move on at your own pace of breathing. Exhale right, inhale right. Close off both, exhale left, inhale left. Keep going side to side as long as you feel comfortable performing this. Remember, our body tells us when we're done if we feel any interesting sensations. Usually lightheadedness, dizziness, but it could manifest in other ways. Try to have all of your focus and attention on this breathing technique. For a few more rounds here. If the shoulders have started to creep up towards the ears, press them down. If you've started to lean forward, lift back up. See if you can take 3 more rounds. So that would be 3 more inhales and exhales through each nostril. When you're ready to release this breathing technique, after you've inhaled, for your exhale, do so through both nostrils and release the hand. Taking a few deep breaths here through both nostrils now. Begin to release the neck a little bit, keeping the eyes closed if you feel comfortable. Drop the right ear to the right shoulder on an exhale. Tuck that chin towards the chest and roll the head down. And then shifting left ear to left shoulder. Exhale, tucking the chin down and head down. And just keep going here, side to side. And as you move, bring that heightened awareness to the neck and the shoulders to just observe if you have any spots where your body is just asking you to pause and hold and open there. I call those your sticking spots. It feels like it's catching a little bit. And if you could just pry in there and lengthen it out and loosen it up, then it would feel wonderful. And that is actually probably exactly what it feels like. Our muscle surfaces, we have layers of muscles all throughout our body. And those muscles should be sliding and gliding over each other. But as we age, and especially if we're not moving our joints and muscles through their full range of motion, we get these sticking points or adhesions in the muscle where they should be moving and gliding, and they're not. So spend some time at those spots, maybe taking little micro movements, adjusting the angle of the head and neck. And take about 2 more of these half circles. Or if you're pausing in one spot, feel free to keep doing that. When you're ready, inhale to lift the head up to center. Even if you're not ready, I know you could probably do that all day and feel awesome about it. But let's move on to a little more spinal manipulation. Closing the eyes here if you have opened them. I want you to really tap into the space of your solar plexus. Above the navel, below the chest, that space kind of right at the base of the rib cage. And feel as if you're moving the spine from that space through a few rounds of cat and cow. We'll start very small micro movements. So I'm going to, on an exhale, engage that space and feel like I'm pressing it back as I just barely move into a little spinal flexion or forward folding type movement. And then on my inhale, I'm going to take that space and press it forward. Just super subtle here at first. I'm going to slide my hands back and forth on my thighs. So as I press that solar plexus back and I exhale and I engage my abdominals, I'm going to slide those hands forward. And as I back bend and inhale and open, I'm going to slide those hands in towards me. And each time you move through this flexion or cat and this extension or cow, make that movement a little bit bigger. Until you reach what you feel is your maximum range of motion in the spine. We always want to work within pain-free range of motion with any of our joints. And so if you start to notice any type of sharp shooting, pinching, burning type pain, then take it a step down to where your movement was before you were feeling that. Take about 3 more rounds at your biggest expression of cat and cow here. One more. Exhale. And inhale. And coming to neutral. Let's work with the shoulders and then we'll move on to lower body. So I'm going to lift that right shoulder up to the ear as high up as I can get it and then roll it back and down. And while I'm rolling it back and down, left shoulder moves up. And I'm just alternating, rolling. Again here, maybe close the eyes. See what you can observe. Is one side moving more freely than the other? Are you feeling any sticking points, any crunching type sensations? That's all common. That's all typically our soft tissues that have kind of stiffened up or are not moving efficiently. So we're working into those spaces, prying open, giving space, openness, and ease. Go ahead and reverse directions. Again, making this movement as large as feels acceptable to your body. My hands are moving freely, and I'm still trying to stay as upright as possible, as neutral as possible with the rest of my body, and just moving in the shoulders. And relax when you feel like you've had enough. And for our next movements, I'm just going to turn a little bit so you can see my posture better. We're still at the edge of the seat. Let's lean back to invite a little abdominal engagement while we work with the ankle and the toes. Well, first, actually, sit up so you can see your toes. And we're going to try to take all of those toes, foot grounded, toes lift. Challenge number 1. Then trying to set the pinkies down. Then just the next toe. But probably all the next 3 of them want to come down at the same time. Then the middle toe, then the next toe, and then the big toe. Now see if you can lift in the opposite order. Big toe, next toe. Try not to lift them all. One at a time. And pinky. Let's do that again, setting just the pinky and big toes down. Is that even possible? I think so. Then set all those middle toes down. It's hard. Try to lift just those middle toes. Brain's not computing. Can't do it. Oh. Work it as much as you can. Notice I'm like clenching my hands. Try to relax the rest of your body. Lift all those toes. One more time in any toe order that you would like to. Just work that manipulation. Try to relax the rest of your body. And go ahead and scrunch them up and lift them up. Scrunch them under and lift them up. I dare you to try to focus on anything else while you're doing that. So we're essentially practicing fine-tuning our attention. Okay, now let's lean back. Hands come to the chair for support, but still feeling that abdominal engagement. So make sure you're not leaning too far back. Shoulders aren't coming up. You're still very much upright, very much engaged and lifted. Straighten that right leg out. And we're going to point. Maybe that heel lifts off the ground. And then flex. Trying to send those toes as far back as you can. You're going to feel a stretch in the calves there. Point. And flex. Now try to observe if engaging those abdominals and you're trying to press the shoulders down, you're trying to keep the chest open, have you lost focus of the foot? So even with this distraction, can you really try to observe every little detail about the movement of that ankle? Go ahead and circle. Leg stays a little bit lifted, so even more engagement, even more distraction and chatter from elsewhere. Reverse directions. Shoulders stay down, breathing stays full. This is one of the really great beauties of a practice of yoga like this, is it reflects life. So we're trying to work so many different things here. There's so many different things our body's doing, just like distractions that we might face in our lives. All right, relax that foot. Come up to neutral, shake it out if you need to. We're gonna switch legs now. So re-engaging, lifting up, send those arms back, straighten that left leg, starting with our pointing and our flexing. Now here, lean back a little further. If you can, engage a little bit more. And if you thought, yeah, I can focus on both, I can multitask, I multitask all the time. You may or may not know that, in fact, our brain can't multitask. We cannot do two things at once. What happens is we just shift back and forth so quickly between the 2 or 3 or 4 different things we're doing that to us it feels like we're doing it all at once. But we can really only focus on one thing at a time. So go ahead and circle now. Some people are just better at switching back and forth than others. But think about that for a minute. Do we actually want to be multitasking? When I'm having a conversation with my husband, should I be looking at my phone? Should I be thinking about the groceries that I need to buy at the grocery store? Or should I be trying to focus 100% on that conversation? I think we know the answer. Reverse directions. But you know, we're still going to multitask, especially in our fitness and yoga practice. Training the body for that time. All right. Relax. Now let's get the hips. So if you have that towel and you want to use it, now's the time to take that towel and bring it underneath that right thigh, back of the knee. So I'm holding the edges of my towel if I'm using that, or maybe holding with just my right hand and circling. So as you circle here, press actively down into the left foot to help lift up and out of the top of the head. Notice all of the crackles and pops. I think I've mentioned it before, sometimes it's muscle tissue. Sometimes if you feel it in the joint, especially like the hip, it's probably ligaments moving against the bone of the joint. Reverse directions if you haven't already. Notice your breathing. Maybe you're syncing it up with the movement. And go ahead and release. Switch sides. So if you're using that towel, you're sending it now under the left leg, drawing that knee up towards the chest at the same time as you open the chest forward and keep it open and circle. Press down into that right foot to help lift. That's one of those yoga dualities, rooting in order to lift and fly and grow. So we gotta have both sometimes. It's a balance, always a fine balance. Reverse directions. Keep that breathing full, easy and deep. Or at least that's what we're going for. One more circle. And sending that foot down. Coming again to the edge, refinding and positioning seated Tadasana. Let's vinyasa a couple times. So that's our forward fold and back bend. So your forward folding options, hands on the thighs, hands in swan dive, or hands stay lifted the whole time. Either way, let's all take a deep breath. Inhale the arms up. Decide now where the arms go as you move into your forward fold. Exhaling, trying to keep length in the spine. Length, length, length. Keep that length until you can't anymore. And then you're rounding and folding forward. If you feel okay bringing the head below the heart, please do so. You can get some wonderful benefits from that in terms of circulation in the body. But of course, if you've been advised not to do that by your doctor, or you know that it makes you incredibly dizzy, then you're going to keep the head lifted and try to relax as much as you can into this stretch. Feel free to open out the spacing of the feet to make a little more room in that forward fold, maybe moving a little deeper. And on your next inhale, start to lift and engage the head. Slide the hands up to the thighs. Trying to press as little into the palms as you can using the back muscles. Start to lift up. Deep inhale here, arms lift. Exhale, circling them back and down. Reaching for the chair and pulling away from the chair. Don't actually pull the back legs off the floor, but you want to feel as if you're trying to do that. Press through the belly, the ribs, the chest. Lift that chin. And on an exhale, release. And we'll work a little bit of core engagement here. Inhale the arms up. Cross right over left. Deep inhale here in the middle. And as you exhale, you're going to twist to the right. And inhale back to center. We're just moving to the right. Now, if you're doing this mindlessly, you're not going to feel the engagement in the abdominals. But I'd like you to try this movement, thinking of it originating from solar plexus, from this deep engagement along that right side. And then your arms just follow. So it can make such a big difference. Oh yeah. Hopefully you're noticing that. And if you'd like to here for the last few, you can add a knee tuck. Lifting that knee any amount. 2 more. And 1. Come to center, deep inhale, and exhale. Relax the arms, shake it out if you need to. Straightening that right leg. Take a deep inhale to lift and lengthen. Exhale to hinge forward. Hands come to that left thigh. Just coming forward until you feel that stretch in the back of the leg. No need to move further than that. No need to try to touch your toes. This is not a contest. Unless the contest is how observant and respectful can you be to your body. Allow for a couple more deep, full, and easy breaths. Slowly start to come up on an inhale. See if you can maneuver here. It's okay if you can't, but let's try. Keeping this right leg exactly where it is. I'm going to reach my left hand back, right hand to the hip, and I'm going to try to shift and open into gate pose. So I'm shifting in my chair, freeing up that right hip. Notice how I changed the placement of my right foot. So now I'm trying to root it on the ground. And I found gate. Now, if your balance feels pretty good here, let's take a little side reach with the arm, left arm coming up. But if your balance is feeling not so great here, then stay holding on to the chair. So side bend, either holding chair or lifting. And inhale to come up. Now on your exhale, let's keep this left foot where it is. Let's bend that right knee. Try to slide that foot under for our high lunge. So I'm going to walk that foot back as far as I can towards working towards straightening that back leg. I'm going to feel a nice deep stretch here. And 2 options for you today. You can stay here just in stretch mode, or if you'd like to stretch and strengthen, you're going to walk that foot back as far as it will go, and then try to lift off the seat and lower back down. So you're just lifting, like, oh my gosh, I did it, and then coming back down. So it's very, just a second lifting off the seat and coming back down. So you're feeling that stretch and you're getting really powerful quad engagement in the back leg if you're doing it this way, or you're feeling a nice stretch everywhere if you're just holding the pose. Take one more breath wherever you've decided to go with your practice. And deep inhale here. Exhale, we're moving into a bit of a twist. So I'm going to try to reach that right hand over for the chair. Maybe left hand comes on the other side. I can relax this back leg any amount. If it feels better, I can send it out to the side a little bit. So just play around a little, see what feels good to your body. And on an exhale, release. Find your way back to center, and we'll do that same sequence on the other side. I'm going to turn my chair again so you can see my body mechanics better. Finding seated mountain pose. Deciding how you'd like to forward fold. This time I'm going for hands on the legs. Inhaling the arms up wherever you end up going. Inhale. And on your exhale, start to fold. Keep the spine as long as you can, for as long as you can. And then allow yourself to round. I should have mentioned perhaps opening those feet wider apart. You can do it while you're folding, but it might be easier to do it while you're not folded, just to make a little more room for the abdomen, the chest. And release down into that fold. Perhaps reaching either between the legs or on the outside of the legs. See if you can grab hold of that chair. Remember, the higher up you grab, the more accessible that should be. The lower down I go, the deeper of a stretch I'm going to bring myself into. Where can you relax? What holding patterns have you brought yourself into? Maybe even I noticed my toes were scrunching hard. If you're binding or holding anything in any way, release that hold. Slide those hands up to the thighs as you engage and lift the head and neck. And then with an inhale, lifting all the way up. Next, inhale to send those arms up and overhead. Exhale to circle back and down. Back bend time. So holding, pulling away from that chair, pressing forward, inviting openness and spaciousness in the front of my body, which is usually very closed forward throughout my day. One more breath here, deep inhale. And exhale, let it go. Another inhale sends those arms straight out overhead, this time crossing left over right. Shoulders down, but arms lifted. Dualities. Bring those feet back to hip width apart if you had widened them out. And on an exhale, twist to the left. Now I'm kind of hoping that you've done that first one without really thinking about it. Do it again without really thinking about it. Just kind of, oh yeah, I'm twisting to the left. Not really feeling that engagement. Now I want you to not even let movement happen without engaging powerfully that left side, those oblique muscles. And then move into that twist. Notice the difference. Oh yeah. It's all about what we concentrate on, what we focus on. Bringing intentful movement, an intentional, meaningful movement versus just flopping our bodies through space and hoping for the best. If you'd like to add that knee tuck, try it out. As I twist, I tuck, ha ha, and just intensify or magnify that abdominal engagement. Two more. Let's do three more. Here's two. Last one. Inhale and exhale. Let it go. Shake those arms out, swing them out, roll the shoulders. Let's straighten that left leg. Take a deep inhale to lift and lengthen, and exhale to move forward into your fold. Both hands best to be on that right thigh. And notice what you notice. How much do you feel in that hamstring or hamstrings, which is actually 3 different muscles on the back of the leg. Maybe you feel this down into the calf. Maybe you feel it in the back. What do you observe? Again, notice if you're scrunching, holding, tightening anywhere, try to release. Ooh, my music's getting real crackly. You keep this hold. Keep this stretch. Couple more breaths. And on an inhale, slowly start to lift up. If you can, keeping that left foot where it is. Right hand comes to the back of the chair for support, and you're starting to pivot and shift, rooting that left foot down now into gate pose. Left hand to left hip. This hand can remain on the chair for balance and support as you move into your side reach, or this arm can come up and over. Stretching here, opening, trying to keep that chest opening forward. And on an inhale, let it lift you up. Exhale to release. Now we're going to take that left leg, bend that knee, and try to bring the knee under the hip to start. Toes are curled under in the back. I'm pressing actively into my right foot. And now is where you decide, do you want to just maintain and hold this lovely stretch? Maybe even deepen the stretch a little by sending those toes back? Or would you like to stretch and activate? And your decision may be made for you based on what your body's capable of right now today. So if you can, you're just working that leg any amount further back until you feel that you can put weight in the back leg and the front leg. And on an inhale, you lift. Exhale, you lower. Maybe you've given that a try and you realize it's not for you today. Go back to the stretch hold. But if you're lifting and lowering, let's try 2 more after this. Probably feeling a burn in that quad. Whoo-hoo. Last lift. And release. Now relax that back leg a little bit, moving back into stretch mode. Deep inhale. Exhale to move into your twist. Left hand to the outside, right hand to the other outside if you can. And if you need to adjust or shift this back leg, feel free to do so. So you may want to reposition it. As much as you can, you want to try to keep the hips balanced. Moving any amount deeper into this twist and just noticing what it does to your breath. Noticing if you can keep those shoulders stacked over the hips. You're not floating forward, which is very common, but also just not great for our spines. Take one more deep inhale. And on your exhale, release. And go ahead and start to bring those legs back together, back to seated Tadasana. And if you've been practicing with me all along, you're guessing where we're going next. We're going to come up to standing. So this may be where you want to put your shoes back on if you know that you need footwear for any standing work. If you would like to try chair pose, join me. Otherwise, get up out of the chair however you need to for your support and balance. So if you're trying chair, you're walking those heels in towards you. Pushing that weight forward, so I feel it mostly in my toes right now. I'm going to shift those arms forward to just try to help me shift all of that weight. Pushing into the heels now, engaging like everything in the lower body is engaged right now. I had a yoga teacher call this your yogic cup of coffee. It will wake you up and activate every major muscle group in the body. If you're still with me, awesome. That's the longest we've held chair. Inhale to lift and straighten, and exhale to release. And we've made it to standing. So for today, I'm just going to turn my chair for the right angle here. You're going to be standing sideways to your chair, left hand on the chair. Let's talk about paying attention to your body mechanics in everyday movements. So how many times a day do you think you bend forward to pick something up? It might not even be something low down on the floor like you dropped your pen. It might be that grocery bag or something else that you're lifting up, shoes, whatnot. The majority of humans mindlessly pick things up off the floor. And in my mindless picking up off the floor, looks like this. So what you probably noticed is a lot of rounding in my back. I'm putting all of the effort of this forward bending into my spine. And not only that, but into a small segment of my spine, which often suffers the most from herniated discs. So what happens when I do this? 100 times a day, thousands of times a month, hundreds of thousands of times in a year possibly, is I'm compressing the front of my little discs between my vertebrae in my spine. I compress the front, compress, 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 bulge, bulge, bulge to the back. It's this in itself is not a negative movement, but when I do it repetitively like that, it becomes one. So let's stop Aline from ranting on her soapbox and let's do some movement. So I'd like you to bring that right hand, fingers forward, thumb back. This will help you understand pelvic tilt. So let's engage those glutes, thrust that pubic bone forward, engage that core. And then let's do the opposite. So let's relax all of this. Let's push the tailbone back, push the pubic bone here down towards the ground. So rock forward or tuck, and the opposite. So hand to the hip like this just kind of helps me feel that I am going through that movement. I'm feeling like crazy powerful engagement in the lower abdomen here and in the back, the low back. So I'm engaging the low back when I tilt like this. Now, let's practice picking something off the floor. So we're going to tilt that pelvis, tailbone opening, pubic bone dropping down. Notice my spine stays neutral. Once I reach the point where my hamstrings here in the back are going to start to forcefully tuck my pelvis under because they're tight. So once I start to feel like, oop, can't go any further without losing my pelvic tilt, then I'm going to bend the knees. And now I'm going to pick my item up off the floor. So let's practice that. We're kind of squatting in a way too. So tailbone pushes back, pubic bone forward. Everything's engaged. Bend the knees. Just move as far down as you feel comfortable. And come up. Notice how engaged everything is. Things are stretching. Things are activating. Let's try it one more time. Tilt. Start to hinge forward. Once you feel like you're going to lose this integrity, then you bend the knees. Awesome. Hopefully you'll try that more on your own. Let's move a little bit more into some balance work. So bringing that hand back to the hip, just resting it in neutral. I'm going to shift my weight a little bit into that left foot, bend that right knee. Let's lift that knee into stork. And then let's shift it back as I move the chest forward, warrior 3, trying to keep that hip down. So I noticed I started to open like this. I want to keep the hips squared. See if you can, without letting that foot touch, perhaps, stork. And warrior 3. Now, if you feel this is too scary, it's way too much open space, not enough support, please do this with both hands on the chair. So stork, you won't be able to lift as high forward, but that's totally okay. Again, it's not about how impressively high you can lift. It's about feeling all of the sensation and working through the balance. Let's try one more. I'm sure that left hip's burning a little bit. And come to neutral. Do a couple little hip circles. Release it all. And let's do the other side with our balance work. So if we had time, I would love to practice the tilts again, but I highly recommend you do that on your own. Let's finish up with balancing on the other side. So I want to shift my weight into my right foot now, bend that left knee, and I'm going to lift to stork, and then try to gracefully move into warrior 3. Working lots of muscles here, coordination of the muscles, and tying in balance. So we talked about that multitasking earlier. This is definitely multitasking. So you're having to shift back and forth between your focus of, okay, I'm rooting down through my foot. I'm trying to stay engaged. I'm trying to keep my hips squared. Of course, you'll focus on one thing a little bit better than the others, but that's okay. We're just trying to shift back and forth, keep it everything engaged, including our minds. One more. And relax. Roll those hips out. You can widen the stance of the feet, and almost like you're doing a slow motion hula hoop type action. Should feel really good to just kind of stretch out, especially if you find one of those sticking spots like, oh, right in there, getting a good stretch in the hip. You can pause in those sticking spots. This is our little cool down stretch, so take your time, hitting up any of those positions that feel good and maybe pausing in those spaces. Again, notice my pelvic tilt when I move forward. I am not rounded. Whew, that does not feel good to my back. I am poking that tailbone out. Stretching my hamstrings. All right. When you feel like you've had enough, you feel loosened up and ready to relax, go ahead and come on back to your chair. Find your positioning that feels most comfortable, relaxing to you, while still maintaining a bit of an open posture on the front of the body. And do take any final stretches or movements that you need to as well here to relax. So get situated, support the body as best you can. And I'm going to open those feet out wide, even let the soles of my feet come up a little bit. Just fully relax here. I think today I'd like to place hands on the belly, that solar plexus space. So get comfortable. Allow your eyes to close when you're ready. And for your final relaxation, I'll lead you through just a little tiny taste of a practice called Yoga Nidra, or yogic sleep, aimed at focus, meditation, relaxation. And so as you relax and breathe here, I'm just going to walk you through body parts to bring your attention to. No muscle engagement, just focus. Right big toe. Next right toe. Right middle toe. Next right toe. Right pinky toe. Right heel. Right calf. Right knee. Right thigh. Right glute. Right hip. Left big toe. Left next toe. Left middle toe. Left next toe. Left pinky toe. Left heel. Left calf. Left knee. Left thigh. Left glute. Left hip. Belly button. Low back. Solar plexus. Chest. Neck. Mouth. Forehead. Crown of the head. does your body feel now? Do the legs feel any different than the arms, which we did not focus on? Just see the differences you can observe. And when you're ready, begin to breathe a little deeper, bringing more movement back to the body. First with just the breath, and then by moving fingers and toes, ankles and wrists. Any other movements that might feel good to you? Maybe taking a nice long stretch, lengthening out through the fingers and the toes. And stay there as long as you need to, relaxing. I hope that you've enjoyed today's class. If you have questions about it, comments, suggestions, anything you know, you can always reach out to me, call me, or email me. If you're having trouble finding my contact information, you can always call the front desk to get it, or you can find me on the hub. And don't forget, if you want worksheets for breathing techniques, I have one for the one that we did today and for all the other ones that we've done in prior classes. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me to get copies of those. And I hope you have just a wonderful day, and I hope you move forward mindfully in everything that you do. At least hold on to that as long as you can after today's class. And I'll see you next time. Bye.